In this video, I'm going to talk about driver recruiting, and that's really where safety begins, is when you're hiring a new driver. And so many companies miss this as they could have a recruiting department and all they're worried about is I need a driver, I need to get a butt in the seat, and I need to get my cash register, the tractor, moving. And they miss the whole part of setting the expectations of bringing new drivers on. So, what I like for recruiters to do is to think that safety starts at recruiting, and that's setting the expectations from day one with the driver on how your operation operates. So, number one, pre-employment screening reports. So the FMCSA has a wonderful program called the PSP program, pre-employment screening reports. And the only time you can run that report is during the hiring process of a new driver. You can't pull them on the current drivers you have, but you can pull this report. And when I look at those reports, I'm looking at a couple of things. Is it showing the violations for the driver for the last 3 years, and it's showing accidents for the last 5 years. I will tell the driver, I'm recruiting a new driver, I'm going to say, I've got your application. I see your experience. Maybe the driver sent in a resume, and I see that you've been driving a while. Driver, I'm just going to let you know our company runs pre-employment screening reports, and I just want to let you know I'm going to send you a release on that, and you need to sign that so I can run this report. Do that before you do anything else. Don't set them up for a drug test. Don't run the MVR. Don't do anything except run that PSP report first. When I'm looking at that report, so I've got the application. I may have talked to the driver about, have you had any accidents in the last 3 years? Have you had any violations? That kind of stuff. Then when I run the PSP report, I'm using the PSP report as a credibility sheet. If I have a driver that's I'm talking to before I run the PSP report and they go, yeah, I had an accident about 2 months ago. Here's what happened in that. And then I run the PSP report and I see that single accident, that's a credible driver. I understand you had an accident. I understand that happened. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to kick you out of the recruiting process because of it. Now, here's the opposite. You talk to the driver, they fill out the application, you talk to them, have you had any accidents in the last 3 years? No, never. No fender benders, nothing in your personal car, nothing on the road, anything like that? No. Then you pull the PSP report and they had 2 accidents in the last 6 months. I will not hire that driver. I don't care what is said after that. I will not hire that driver because I have a credibility problem. If they're going to lie about that, they're going to lie about everything else on that. The other thing the PSP report does is if you will tell the driver upfront about the PSP report that I'm going to run it, and the driver goes, never mind, I'll go apply somewhere else. You just avoided a problem right there. The driver knows that they have a problem with their PSP report and they don't want you to see it. So using that tool during the recruiting process, and again, I would have them fill out an application. I'd have a quick discussion with them. I'd tell them I'm running the PSP. I'd run the PSP. When you run the PSP, it's almost instantaneous. You can do that right while you're on the phone in a lot of cases with that, and you can pull it up and go, oh, it's clean, or there's no problem. Hey, your PSP report looks really great. Let's continue to the next step. The PSP report costs $10 from the FMCSA. That $10 is well worth. You haven't wasted money on doing a DOT medical. You haven't wasted money on a pre-hire drug test. You haven't wasted money ordering a motor vehicle record. You haven't wasted a whole bunch of money. You just started right there on the PSP program. That's the key to understanding the safety of that driver. So if the PSP report shows that they have a lot of hours of service violations, you know you're going to struggle with that driver on hour service. So you're thinking about my company, hours of service basic score is really high and we're really trying to get it down. Do I want to bring another problem driver into my operation? The answer to that is no, you do not. Same thing with vehicle maintenance violations, it's going to show that. The way I look at vehicle maintenance violations, it may not be the driver's problem. You can see if the problems in there, you can see load securement issues there. I can have a discussion with a driver to understand, well, yeah, my maintenance department really struggled. They didn't do a good job on making sure my equipment was always a mess. I could only do the best I could. That's telling me it's not a driver problem. It's telling me it was an operation problem. And I may still hire that driver because of the discussion I have with the driver. So make sure that you order a PSP report during the recruiting process. Then the discussion I have, again, safety starts with recruiting. I really want you to have a forward-facing and a driver-facing camera. Having a discussion with the driver that we have cameras in the trucks during the recruiting process is going to solve a lot of problems eh, eh, when they're in the operation. One of the main problems we have with drivers is them covering up the camera. So if you'll have that discussion during the hiring, saying, just letting you know we have a driver-facing camera. I also want to let you know it's a company policy. If you obstruct that camera, I'm going to fire you. Are we clear on that? Do you understand that that's what's going to happen? If you'll have that conversation when they come into the company, then you're not going to have as much of a problem with that driver. The other discussion I have recruiters about cameras is the camera is in there to protect you, driver. Four-wheelers are crazy. They're cutting you off. They're slamming on brakes. They're running into you. They do not operate around commercial vehicles very well. The only way I know that I can protect you on the road is by having that camera in the truck. And then what I talked to them about the driver-facing camera is I'm not here to spy on you. I don't care what's going on in that truck except the safety behavior in that truck. You have to wear a seatbelt with our operation. You have to keep your cell phone in a holder. You must use a hands-free headset while operating our trucks. If you put that expectation in the beginning, then you're not going to hear from the driver later. Well, you never told me that. I didn't know that was going to be an issue. You have to have those discussions with the driver coming on board. And then further is talking about the way that training drivers is the lowest common denominator of training a driver is just showing them a safety video. That's not what we do here. At our company, we coach our drivers. We do curative training. We have onboarding training. We have monthly training. We have driver write-ups. Driver, I want you to be clear on this, that if we see safety behaviors that need to be solved with you, we're going to deal with them with you, and we expect you to change those behaviors. You understand what I'm saying here? You see the difference is they understand what the culture is. And with the safety talk, my number one thing with drivers, again, they really just care what's in it for them. Driver, I want you to come home safe after every trip to you and your family. That's really it. And we have a safety culture in our company where we coach drivers when we see safety behaviors. We do curative training if the safety behavior continues. We do monthly training on trying to solve issues that are going on either with roadside blitzes or the things that we're trying to solve with our company's basic scores. And we want to make sure that you are the safest driver, and we want you to be a professional driver in doing this. So you see, that's a whole different scenario in recruiting than just saying, okay, driver, we really need a driver today. And can you start this afternoon? You do not want to be in that situation. There are so many times that I see a driver get in an accident 24 hours after they've been hired by a new company that you haven't covered those safety things and the things that you need to do prior to bringing them on. So make sure that your recruiters know that. And if you're using an outside recruiter, you're going to have to talk to them about, I want you to include this in the recruiting process. There's many companies out there that use third-party recruiters. You just have to have a one-on-one to add to the script that they have with the drivers that they, "Look, we have cameras in our trucks. You gotta have this part of the script. Look, we run a PSP report. You gotta have this part in the script," and get all of that in there so that your safety really begins at recruiting.